Hey boys and girls, it's KnightStalker here. Welcome along today to my tier list for the Season 11 Infantry. Check it out. I thought I'd make a little bit of video like this because there's a lot of new players entering the game, particularly at the start of the seasons and things like that. And a lot of the time you won't know what units are worthwhile, what units are not. And I just want to, before we start, talk about how we're going to rank these. The first of all is I don't play Territory War at all. I can't give you a ranking for Territory War. Talk to your house captains, things like that, if you want to do Territory War. Today I'm going to rank them based on random siege matches, when you just hit that J key and you queue up for any old random siege. And how good are these units generally? And we can't get too specific on it. You can't say, for example, oh, well, 40 pikes are excellent on, I don't know, Glenglory at the certain capture point. We're not going to get specific like that. We're just going to talk about, is this unit a good unit? Does it have a place in the game? Is it worth unlocking? Because if you're not spending a lot of money on this game, or you don't have a lot of time, you're not going to be very happy if you unlock an absolute trash tier unit. So how are we going to rank them? We're going to rank them as, and pretty simple. Most units will be good units or weak units, to be perfectly fair. There will be some powerful units that we come across, and there are of course going to be some trash tier. So let's start. We're going to talk about Alchemists first. Now Alchemists are an excellent unit as far as I'm concerned. I like playing support. I play a support class, Longsword. But are they powerful? They're not powerful. You're not going to say, hello kitty cat. No, I'm making a video. Off you go. You're not going to win a push just because Alchemists are there. They're a good unit. You know, especially when you're on defense, you can heal up all your team's units without them having to dash back to the supply and leaving holes in your defense. But they're certainly not powerful. This is a good unit. You can get some good scores and do some good team plays with it. What about ASAPs? ASAP's got a buff. I think it was last week while I was away. And I've been trying to make a guide on ASAPs and failing miserably because I can't get any good clips to show you, even after the buff. This unit is absolutely garbage. It can't fight against heroes. It can't fight against anything with a shield. The only thing it's really good for is trashing units that are lower tier than it. And what unit can't do that? You know, they've even got their little, their little block they're supposed to parry. Back in the day when they first came out, they were good for pushing through doors with 40 pikes, for example, that wouldn't be able to stun them. But not anymore. It's hot garbage. My opinion, of course. So what about bagpipers? Bagpipers, their main thing is they give you I often use the attack buff for bagpipers. It will give your team in a very large radius a 15% damage increase, and I think it's a 5 or an 8% movement bonus. I can't quite remember. This unit's support score is capped at 450 because it makes a huge impact on the battle. This is a powerful unit. You're not going to win any MVPs using this unit because it is a support unit, but it is powerful in my opinion. The other thing it can do is it will give defense buff. It's got two songs, so they can play for attack or play for defense. You'll get a significant bonus to your defense with the other one. But it also has a third skill, which will give a giant burst, and it will make your team in that radius, that huge radius, immune to CC for 1 second. Now, that 1 second is critical, let me tell you, if you're an experienced player. And the other thing is it will increase the buff effectiveness, whether it be defense or attack, for a short period. It's a very powerful unit. Banner Knights. I love to hate Banner Knights. They're one of the newest infantry this season, and I'm sure that if you're playing in a 5-man stack, that this would be really good, especially if your other players in your 5-man stack or woman stack are using cavalry or charge infantry and get the repeated charge with it. But especially if you're queuing solo or just with a friend, this unit isn't very good. I imagine that there are good applications for it in Territory Wars, but in random siege matches, this unit is weak. It's very low damage output. It's a lot of fun. You can throw down the banner, you can pick the banner up and wave it around with your hero and do some cool attacks, but it is a weak unit. Very cheap though. I think it's the cheapest purple tier infantry, which is appropriate, relative to the cost. It's actually pretty good, but it's still a weak unit. Claymores. Claymores have excellent attack strength. They do a lot of damage, and if you cycle and do their skills in the right order, they can cause some very large damage. Are they a showstopper? Are they powerful? No, they're not. But they are a good, solid unit. They miss what they're really missing is some excellent CC immunity or something like that. But they do huge damage. They will mow down heroes. They are a good unit. Condos. Condottieri Guard came out in Season 3, so when we were playing back then, they were absolutely amazing. They still are. They are fast, very fast. They have shock attack, which will knock any unit of any tier down to the ground if they're not CC immune, and they have reasonably good damage. This is a good unit, and I would recommend it. Domain Javelins. Javelins generally got a buff recently, and I like this unit. I find it fun to play with, especially now that they've got more javelins to throw. But is it a good unit? Is it powerful? It's certainly not powerful. It's not trash tier either. Even in the context of it being a green tier unit, and you might like to play with it if you are new to the game, because they do quite good damage, especially against low tier heroes. Low level heroes. But this is a weak unit. It just doesn't have the impact that you might expect from javelins. What about Domain Pikes? A white tier unit that costs 70 leadership. So something about this unit is that, particularly if you put a brace doctrine on them that gives them a stun, they can keep any infantry at bay. They stretch out in a long line and they have a brace. They do good damage. They swamp cavalry. They haven't got a shield, but generally this is a good unit. I'd recommend it if you've got 70 leadership spear on your roster. This is a good unit, worth leveling up. What about the Domain Spearmen? So what makes Spearmen good? Spearmen need to stop arrows and bullets and things like that. Do they do that? Not very well. They have kind of a weird shield wall that has gaps. They're very weak. They have low block ability. Their advance is useless. Generally speaking, I can't think of a good use for this unit at all, particularly for its leadership. I would put this one in trash tier. That's just me. Hey man, you can always tell me your opinion in the comments below. Or give us a like as well. I like likes. Likes help the algorithm. What about the Black Dragon Javelins? These are a mercenary unit. One of the ones that give you Exemplar, which gives you more experience, more glory, more bronze every match. How do they fare? Unlike most javelins, they don't have a target the hero function. They don't have a double throw like the Javelin Sergeants. Are they a bad unit? They're not trash tier, but they're certainly not good. I'd put this unit into weak. So what about the Black Dragon Pikes? These are very analogous with the Prefecture Pikes here. They have an excellent charge that will instantly kill heroes or unshielded infantry. If you charge them into any sort of shield, you're going to have a bad day. If you miss your hero charge, you're going to have a bad day. They fight very badly in combat afterwards. They're a very cyclic unit. You make them charge, you pull them back. You make them charge, you pull them back. In that context, are they a good unit? Yeah, they're a good unit. They can easily kill heroes. And, you know, anything of equal tier or lower, they can give a decent fight in. So if you're thinking about getting any, mercenaries, when you buy them with silver or with real money, these guys are not bad, not bad. What about the Black Dragon Shields? Again, another mercenary unit with the Exemplar thing. I don't know, man. They're 110 leadership from memory. And when you compare them to, say, these guys here who are 100 leadership, they are better. They have a heal and things like that. Do they stop bullets and arrows? Yeah, they do. They are a tower shield unit. Can they fight? No. No, they can't fight. They're not like Imperial Spear Guard or anything like that. But I find, and I know this isn't a particularly popular opinion on this unit, but I think this is a good unit. The survivability is pretty low. You know what? I'm going to put it down to weak. I like this unit, and I think I'm having a little bit of bias on it. It was the first mercenary unit I purchased after the Martella Lorry, of course, but I think I'm just letting my emotions get in the way there. This is a fairly weak unit. What about peasant farmers? Let's talk about in the context of peasants. You've got 40 leadership left over. You're going to fill the bottom of your roster with a peasant unit. Would you put farmers in? The advantages of farmers is they're relatively fast. They have the swamp ability, so if they hit cavalry, they'll be slowed by 30% for 1.5 seconds, I believe, and it can be renewed with more stabs. It's a big unit size. Is it a good unit? Hard to say. I see quite a few of them being taken, but I think that even in the context of a peasant unit, this one is going to have to be weak. Prefecture Pikes. Season 3 pike unit that's gone through a few reworks along with all the other pikes along the way. This unit makes a massive block of extra pointy sticks. They're really long. They can outrange cavalry who charge them. Any cavalry charging this unit in the front is instantly dead. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. They are dead without causing causing very little damage to this unit. If you charge it in the side or you attack it with a hero, they can very quickly get overwhelmed. Is it a good unit? No, it's better than good. This is a very, very good unit. You can block them up in doorways. Anything that happens to walk into the front of it, including infantry, will just be annihilated. It is a very powerful unit. Also, only 235 leadership, and I would recommend you get this one. What about the Grandpa Garrison, the Giga Garrison, also known as the Grey Hair Garrison? Well, I think that's probably the name they'd like us to call them. Everyone calls them Grandpa or Giga Garrison. Why do they call them Giga Garrison? Because they are very, very meta, a very meta unit, and very powerful. They have the highest block recovery of all shields in the game. They put out exceptional damage in a very short space of time, and also in a small area too. You move them and step them onto a hero, that hero will melt. Even if they're a heavy armor user, they're going to take serious damage, if not be killed if you're on a bit lower than full health. Can they resist things like cavalry charges? Well, they have a 1 second resistance to CC immunity that you can spam. That's one of the reasons that makes them very good. They can regenerate health, and they do lots of damage, and they're a little shield wall. This is a powerful unit. What about Helbidius Sergeants? I've featured these in a video recently, and most people seem to agree with me that this unit is lacking something. They have a brace, and you can make that brace with I think you can put the stun doctrine on them, but the interesting thing about their brace is that it's not just forward, they can rotate. So if they get attacked from the rear, they will automatically self-rotate, or some to the side, and they can all rotate in different directions too. It's a great concept unit. The AI is terrible. They can melt heroes. They certainly melt cavalry if you're careful and aren't getting, cav trampled. Is it a trash tier unit? I don't think it's trash tier, but it certainly is weak. This unit needs some attention from the developers. What about the blue helmets? The ordinary stock standard blue helmets. They are soft, they are squishy, they don't do a lot of damage. This unit is no good. It has an upgraded unit that we'll talk about soon, these ones, but this is a trash tier unit in my opinion. What about the Iron Cap Spearmen? The Iron Cap Spearmen have recently had a buff, and they are very chonky boys. They are thick, and they take a lot of killing. The only thing that really stops them being a good unit is they don't have a line formation, which is, when they all stretch out with their shields up in front of them and one up above them. They don't have that, and that's the only thing stopping them being a good unit. But they can still, in their standard formation, they can do things like block whole doorways for a long time, even in higher tier games. This is probably it's hard to say. Is it a good unit? Some people think it is, but I'm going to say it's weak, only because it's a shield unit without a line formation, which is what you'll often use to stop enemy heroes and things jumping back on a point when you're capturing it. What about the Iron Cap Spearmen? These guys, when fully upgraded, including their tech tree, can do a charge once every 6 seconds or 8 seconds. They have a little cover commander, which is just really a recall. So you can go charge, recall them using cover commander, charge again, pull them back, charge again, pull them back, charge again, just over and over and over again until the unit's gone. They do reasonable damage on their charge. This is a good unit, even in higher tier play. So not even out of context, not even in low tiers. In high tiers you can still use this, and you do often see them around if someone's got 115 leadership or whatever they are lying around. Certainly not my favourite unit, but they are a good unit. Imperial Javelins. Javelins got a rework, and Imperial Javelins do massive damage. I mean massive damage. You start throwing these into a unit of Iron Reapers, you're going to very quickly kill some Iron Reapers. Chuck them into some Shenjis, you're going to wipe them. Their pros are the heavy damage, and they have like a shield wall as well. Also, if you set them up right in their veterancy line, they can stun lock units and bleed them to death with their shield throws. So this is a good unit. It's not a powerful unit simply because the low ammunition thing and the kind of low health that they have, low armor. But these things can fight in melee combat. You know, they're not a melee unit, but they can hold their own for a little while rescue help comes. This is a good unit. What about the Imperial Pike Guard? Now, this is one I was thinking about. And, you know, in territory wars, great, you need these boys, and you cycle them, right? Three of you take them, and or four of you take them, and one after another you're walking forward, stopping all that mass cavalry. But what about in random sieges that we have, that we're talking about today? They're certainly not powerful. There are other units that are much better, like the 40 Pikes, that are always available. They have a long cooldown on their cavalry stopping advance. They can knock over entire front lines of infantry, but they lack a CC resistance, and once they've done their advance, they're no good for about 50 seconds. You know, that's a long time in game. So really, you'll often only get to use them once. Unless you're very careful, maybe you'll get to go again. But in random sieges, it's my opinion that these are weak. They're not what they used to be. All right? A couple of tweaks would get them into good. Maybe they're in territory war. I'm sure they are powerful from the stories I've heard. But in random siege, solo queue, they're weak. What about these boys, the Imperial Spear Guard? Now, they got a buff after another buff after another buff recently, and I don't think they needed the last buff. This unit can take an absolute pounding. It is the toughest unit in the game, bar none. There is nothing tougher than this unit in the entire game. It can take incredible punishment. It can self-heal. The shield wall is damn near impossible to get through. It has CC resistance. It can cause CC. It can just surge forward and knock everything over in front of it. Is it a powerful unit? It's a support unit. So I'm hesitant to put support units in powerful, but this is absolutely a good unit, and it borders on powerful, in my opinion. If you're a longsword or a short sword, that would immediately bump it up, I think, because those two classes in particular, or like a poleaxe, they combo super well with the hero. What about Javelin Militia? In the context of a green tier unit, I like to use this unit, even in high tiers. Is it particularly effective? It's certainly not powerful. Is it trash tier? Definitely not. This unit can do some good damage. It has multiple throw ability, and it also has a charge. So it's not going to be a good unit later in the game. But is it a good unit when you start getting them at low tiers? You know, level 50, 100, 150, even level 300. It is. I think this is a good unit in the context of low tier play. But you certainly wouldn't want to be bringing them in if you're level 1000. So, contextually, good unit. What about the Javelin Sergeants? Javelin Sergeants, they have a lot of ammunition for a Javelin unit. They can throw a very, very long way, and they can do things like they'll go double throw, then they'll go single throw, then they'll go targeted throw, then they'll go back to single throw. So you can almost chain that within 3 to 4 seconds of each click of the button. So you can spit out an absolute huge ton of javelins. They don't do the same amount of damage as the Imperials, but this is a good unit. It's a fun unit as well, and I recommend it. What about these guys? You will either know them as Elp Helbidius or Landsknecks, depending on which server you play on. This unit has a ultimate charge, one of the most powerful charges in the game, and it comes from a blue tier unit. You can't just go and get this unit. You have to have the Helbidius first, and then you upgrade the Helbidius into these guys. And they crouch, and they have a pretty decent brace, all things told. But the reason people take them is that charge, and it is devastating. There is nothing in the game that can withstand a charge from this, other than probably something like a shielded up unit of these, or these guys have shields and things as well. It is an absolutely devastating charge. It'll just mangle units. It is a good unit. Men-at-Arms. Men-at-Arms were a day one unit, or a beta unit, and they're a sword and shield unit, similar to like the Squires or the Paladins, where they come from. That's their line. The problem is they don't do any damage. If you take the wrong veterancy line, they'll do even less damage. They're terrible. They're absolutely terrible, this unit. They are utter garbage, and I cannot recommend them for anybody. The only reason you'd ever need these is to upgrade into Paladins. But let's talk about Paladins now, because Paladins are weak. They used to be S-tier powerful back when they came out in Season 5, I want to say. They have an active block that is very hard to get through, and they do good damage as well. They have a very small shield wall, similar to the Grandpas, and you could move them onto heroes and kill them, and you can still do that. If you move this onto an unaware hero, they'll instantly stab them and kill them. The problem is they lost all of their durability somewhere along the lines, probably through some sort of shadow nerf because they were pretty powerful, or maybe the game's just moved on. The issue is that they just don't take as much damage as they used to, and they don't deal as much damage as they used to. Can they work? Yes, they can. So we're not going to put them in trash tier, but they are definitely a weak unit. Very, very fun and very cool unit, though, have to say. So what about Shield Maidens? Gold tier from season, is it 7, the Viking season? Wolves of Ragnarok. This is a highly, highly complex unit. It's probably the most complex unit in the game to use, arguably. It has a lot of different modes, and you have to constantly shift between them. It's primarily a buff unit. It has a cover commander, except that they're very aggressive in the cover commander, and they sort of run off and stop covering you and getting killed. So you have to keep this unit under control. If you're a very good player and you have a lot of practice with this unit, you can be devastating with it. You can buff your team, you can counter-attack with it, you can resist cavalry charges. But if you don't know how to do it, it's like the first 5 or 10 times you use this unit, you'll think it's terrible. But if you persist with it, you'll start doing really well. So, is it powerful? No, I'm not going to go with powerful simply because of how complex it is. Is it weak? Arguably, if you're not familiar with the unit, certainly. But this is, generally speaking, a good unit. Maybe. You know what, I'm going to bump it down to weak due to the complexity, and you'd never ever see them played well. And, you know, this video is for newer players, so let's put it in weak. You know, for the leadership cost especially. When you consider the leadership cost, we're going to put it in weak. It should do more for its price. What about the Martellas? Martellas? The Hammer Bros. Everyone knows them as Hammer Bros or the Marties. And they have a shield, which is great for a peasant because you take less range damage. They have an innate less range damage when they are pushing siege equipment, and siege equipment that gets shot while these guys are pushing it takes a lot less damage as well. They're only 30 leadership, and well, you got to buy them. They're a mercenary unit, so you get the exemplar, so more glory, more experience, more bronze after the battle, just for taking this unit in. And it is undoubtedly the best peasant in the game by a long, long way. Highly usable at the start of the battle. They cannot fight to save themselves. If they get into a fight, they will die. But what they do is push siege engines, and they make the siege engines incredibly tough, and they are themselves incredibly tough while they're doing it. This is a powerful unit in its context. What about Modal? I think we all know about Modal. This unit will instantly kill cavalry that come into it. You know, again, we're not talking territory war. So often in territory war, you'll get waves of cavalry, which will overwhelm them. But in solo play, the only disadvantage they really have is they don't have a shield, and they can get shot to bits quite easily. So they can instantly kill heroes with their stab abilities. They have a lovely charge that does massive damage. They have a brace where they take a lot less damage from things that are attacking them, particularly cavalry, and they do more damage when in a certain formation. This is easily one of the most powerful units in the game, and you'll see them everywhere when you're playing. There's a good reason for that. They are powerful, especially against cavalry. The monks. So the monks came in Season 9, and everybody thought they were going to be fantastic. The best thing I can say about this unit is that you won't have to use it for very long. Monks AI is buggered. They do incredibly low damage. They can't take a punch. They're small unit size. They are utter trash. Don't get sucked in. Don't go down the monk line if you don't have to. The absolute garbage unit with no redeeming features. What about the Palace Guard? Well, you've probably seen a lot of these in your games, and there's a good reason for that. The Palace Guard have two viable veterancy lines. Top and bottom are both powerful. One makes them more tanky, one makes them more damaging, but at the cost of a formation. They are the most commonly used unit in tournaments because of their leadership, particularly. And they're devastating if you use them right. They're extremely tanky, extremely punchy, and they are a very powerful unit. Very, very meta unit. What about then Pike Militia? A lot of guides and things which are a little bit outdated, including my own on Pike Militia, state how nasty these guys can be. We used to see them all the time in high tier matches, but we just don't see them anymore because they've lost a lot of their punch. In low tier games, this is when I did a video recently with Evo Loz, and I had to level up on his service. So the first unit I took was Pike Militia because they are very, very powerful in low tiers because they have a stun on their brace, and so units can't really get them. Do they do a lot of damage in high tier? No, but they still have a stun. If Iron Reapers walk into this unit and they're not in Tiger Step, these guys will beat the Iron Reapers, but that's highly contextual because the hero is not going to stand there and let you do that. So the hero will jump on them and kill them. This is a good unit. If you are playing low levels, if you are new to the game and you're playing, level 100, this is a very good unit and you should get it. Very powerful at that level, but it does die off over time where it didn't used to as the game's evolved. It used to be a good even in-game unit, and it's not that anymore. What about Prefecture Guard? Now, I love this unit. It is extremely powerful in its context. It is good even in in-game, and I regularly use it. You can now, they got a little bit of a change a little while back, and you can now use their Prefecture Drill mode. And if you're using, I think it's the top line veterancy, I did a guide on these guys, but these guys can kill Iron Reapers. They can kill the pre-nerf X-Raiders. They can kill anything. No, they can't kill anything. If you walk them into Grandpa's here, for example, they'll die. But they can kill most things if you get the jump on them and pop your abilities and you attack in a very concentrated manner. Like you don't want to get them split across two enemy units, for example. If you can go 1-to-1, these guys will beat almost anything. They're extremely powerful. Highly recommend you go and see, I think Prefecture Death Squad might be one of the names of the videos, but also the Prefecture Guard guide. It's a very powerful unit, especially in solo siege, and I highly recommend that you check it out if you don't know how badass these guys can be. What about the Prefecture Pikes? Now these guys are very similar to these guys, except that they have, at the end of their charge, they do like a little triple strike thing. They're a bit tougher and they do more damage. They can fight in combat a little bit, but you don't want to. They're much better on the charge, where you charge them in, pull them out again, charge them in, pull them out again. So it's better when you're working with someone, or just staying behind the team's front line. It's not a powerful unit, although any heroes that get caught in its charge pass will die instantly. It has its limitations in that it doesn't have a shield. They're quite squishy, not particularly fast. Yes, but no. But this is a good unit, and I'd recommend it. I still see these all the time in high-tier games. They have some legs on them. What about X-Raiders? Now, if you don't know about X-Raiders, when these guys first came out, they were the most disgusting and powerful unit the game had ever seen. Ever. They were outrageously powerful. They were near impossible to kill. I have no idea how they got released in that state. They were just disgusting. We lost hundreds and hundreds of people left the game because just every person who played took these, they just ruined the game. But they got a hell of a rework. And now, they're good. They're a good unit. Are they powerful? They certainly have their moments. They're very good at like shooting heroes' horses out from underneath them. When they throw their axes, the axes give like, I think it's something ridiculous, like a 20% armor reduction or something silly. Don't look that up. Don't take my word for it. I can't remember off the top of my head. They're very fast. They annihilate ranged units. They're specialised ranged unit hunters, but they can also do frontline fighting and things like that. They have like a phase ability where they'll throw axes over the top of the main line and then just run through them all and start attacking in the back line without having to stop through the infantry and cavalry or whatever on the front line. So you can just wade into units of Shinji Grenadiers or, I don't know, Prefecture Archers, whatever happens to be at the back. This is a good unit. What about the Rattan Pikes? So, this is a highly underrated unit. If you saw my Rattan Viper unit guide recently, how they seriously reduce the what do you call it? The damage and movement of the targets. This also has a very similar poison. They just can't apply it as easily as the Vipers. The poison on these guys is excellent. The problem is they don't have any formations. They just walk around in a big blob. You have to sort of push them into the enemy and then attack with them, which causes them to take a lot of casualties. They're pretty good against any light cavalry. Gold tier cavalry will face stomp them, as will probably Armiger Lancers. But this is a reasonable unit. The problem is that it doesn't have any formations, and it's hard for it to apply its damage, particularly to mass units or anything with a shield. So I'm going to say it's weak, although this unit I'd like to play with more, because I think with a bit more experience with it and a bit more fine tuning I can get it up to good. But it's still especially early game I would say it's more good than weak. But once you get up level 500 plus, you probably aren't going to be using them anymore. What about the Returnrand Shields? Very analogous, what do you call it? Analogous, whatever. They're very similar to the, where are we? These guys, the Iron Cap Swords. They're very, very fast, particularly if you upgrade their tech tree. They're very, very fast. They keep up with cavalry. And that's probably all they've got going for them. They do less damage than the Iron Caps. They don't have the cover commander. They don't have the repeated charge. Are they a bad unit? No, they're not trash tier, I don't think. But you know what? I'm going to put them in trash tier. And that's because they're just hopelessly outmoded by this unit. If you have this unit, you do not need this unit. This one is better. As simple as that. But also, what other things? I would take this over them. I'd take that over them. What other green units have we got here? Yeah, all the other green melee units, I wouldn't take them. But all the other green melee units I would take before I take Returnrand Shields. So that tells me that they are trashed here. Do we need to talk about Iron Reapers? Iron Reapers are the heaviest infantry in the game. They have an ability called Tiger Step that does massive damage. They mow down heroes, they mow down other heavy infantry, they just kill everything they touch. They have got counters, particularly heavy ranged or heavy cavalry will mow them down. They're also quite vulnerable to high damage heroes, but they're an extremely powerful, extremely good unit. I have a guide on them if you want to check it out. What about serfs in the context of peasants? And so serfs are great for collecting resources, right? You can build more than one of each unit type if you didn't know. You build 5 units of serfs, you take them out, you harvest the materials, you come back to the city. In combat, they're absolute trashed here. Nobody uses serfs in combat. All of the other peasants, almost all the other peasants are better than them. Simple as that. These guys, the Malicious Shields, you do see them time to time, you don't see a lot of them. Why is that? They can stop light arrows. They can't really stop muskets because they do too much damage to break their block. They can't stop heroes. They can stop light infantry. They can't stop heavy infantry. I'm going to put them in weak. They're not trash because they do have uses, and they're only 100 leadership. They're not the best unit, and I wouldn't recommend to anyone to play them, really. If you're going to take a low tier shield, even these guys are better, really. But shields are very difficult to use in the current meta at all. So these guys are one of the very few that do well in shielding because they have huge amounts of extra abilities. But they don't have any. So we're going to put them in weak. These guys are 10 leadership more. What about the Silidars? The Silidars just this week or late last week, they just got a buff. And that buff is amazing. They fixed the AI. And that's pretty much all they did with them. They just fixed the AI. They used to just take a random slash when you hit the 1 or 2 button, which are their 2 abilities. One is chop, one is slash, or something like this. And that meant that most of the unit missed. Only the people at the front hit anything. But now they will take a couple of steps, one large step, if they're near an enemy, and use that. And they can now beat Iron Reapers. If you take Iron Reapers into you might know them as Janissaries, but most people know them as Silidars. The Silidars will win against Reapers. And that's one of their main uses, is to hunt Reapers, because Reapers are pretty much immune to everything else. They'll destroy Modal. Basically, they've got 2 instant death abilities, but once you've sprung those, you're on your own for a bit, and they can't really take much damage. Even on the bottom line, which makes them tougher, they're quite fragile. They're not a glass cannon, because they are still reasonably heavy infantry, but this is a powerful unit. It'll smash through shields, it'll kill heroes instantly. Like if you see these guys coming towards you, and especially if you use them, you'll see heroes won't come anywhere near you without the unit. It's because they will instantly kill you. What about the Spear Sergeants? Poor old Spear Sergeants. They used to be the unit to have. You'll probably still find guides that are a bit old that tell you that this is the unit you should get when you're a new player. Don't. If you're a skilled player, you can make this unit work. I can make this unit work, particularly as a longsword, because I can continually heal them, and the cover commander works very well in the way that the longsword plays in its playstyle. But I can imagine that if you're a bow hero, they might be good to keep you safe. A musket, they stick to you like glue. That's got a good cover commander. So, when muskets are dodging out and chucking bombs and things, these guys could keep you safe. But they're very outmoded these days. They're old news. I'm not going to put them in trash tier. I think most people would like me to put them in trash tier, but I certainly think they have their uses. And I can do well with this unit, and I expect that most veteran players can do okay with this unit as well. They're certainly weak, and I wouldn't recommend them, but they're not trash. Squires. Squires upgrade to men-at-arms, which upgrade to paladins, and like everything else in that line, they're just no good. They're not trashed here. I would take Squires over men-at-arms any day. They're not. The upgrade when you go from Squires to men-at-arms is terrible. These guys, it's absolute rubbish. But these guys are okay. They have reasonable block, they have reasonable movement, they have a really long charge, and the charges does a lot of damage. I wouldn't use them generally, but they're not trash. I'll put them in weak. What about Stalwarts? Poor old Stalwarts. Stalwarts, when they first came out in Season 5, were utterly devastating. They were fast, they were hard to kill, they had a massive wide arc block, they have a brace that you can stun and murder people. They were just horrendous. And they got a little bit nerfed, a little bit nerfed, a little bit nerfed, and they got nerfed a bit far. It'll be interesting to see if they make a comeback now that Keshegs can be killed by this unit, because Keshegs they're a tier 5 gold cavalry that was outrageously overpowerful. But it'd be interesting to see. You see, the meta units that you see a lot of at the moment, all of these, they can't beat them. Oh, they might beat Bagpipers on a good day. By the way, this is my own choice of powerful. I don't know how many people would put it in here, but that's me. They just don't stand up to the heavier infantry. They die pretty quick. You can think of them as being shielded pike militia that are tougher and do more damage. Are they a good unit? No, they're a weak unit. This unit is not as powerful as this unit, right? But in the context of this is 115 or 110 leadership, and this is 255, we'll face these off together, these guys are going to kill some of them. But most cavalry will just trample over them. They don't have the same sort of spiky brace that these guys do. Honestly, would prefer to have these in my warband, simply because they cost me less leadership for about the same ability. So I'm going to put them in weak, although I think they may see a renaissance soon, the way that cavalry is going. So watch this space. Sword Militia. I don't hate Sword Militia. I have about a 66% win ratio with this unit. Why do I use it? Why do I use it? Because I have 788 leadership now, or something like that, on my armour, and that is not generally enough to take another unit, but it's enough to take better peasants. You get a better class of peasants, and I don't hate them. People tend to treat them like peasants and just try and jump into them, and they take a long time to kill because they're actually a melee infantry. They're not a peasant, and they have a shield. Will they kill a hero? Nah, absolutely not. But they take three cannonballs to kill. So when they push siege engines in, they're actually pretty good. I encourage you, particularly if you're a veteran, try having a look at this unit again. It's almost trashed here, right? It's still a garbage unit. But, you know, these ones here I would never use. Never ever use these units. But I use this one. So maybe it's not all that bad. Zereg's trashed here. They used to be what we called mini Iron Reapers when they were released in Season 2. We called them mini Iron Reapers. Because they were tough. They did knockdown. Or bleed is the other option, although everyone should be taking the knockdown veterancy line on them. This poor old unit is just horribly outmoded. It hasn't changed since Season 2. It has a charge, and that's it. It's its only ability, and that's nearly a 60-second cooldown. They are terrible. I would never use this unit. They're not fun. They get killed by anything, even green tier units. Can you have good games with them? You can have good games with any unit, but 9 out of 10 games you're going to get your face stomped with them. They're terrible. Don't use them. Village Watchmen. They're only 30 leadership. You can put they've got a brace line, if you take that veterancy line, and you can put a doctrine on them to give them stun. For 30 leadership, they're good. Will they beat things in close combat? No. But, I'm going to put them in weak, because, these peasants can fight, This one can fight. They're nowhere near as good as the Domain, so we're going to put them in weak. And they can be a useful unit. They're only 30 leadership, so this and this are the cheapest units in the game. And why not? Why not take them in your warband if you've got 30 leadership? You see them all the time, even in high tiers, because again, they're cheap. You got 30 leadership left over, boom, Watchmen. Put them in a line, give them a stun. They have the swamp ability, so that they slow and damage cavalry really well. They can push siege towers. They're a worthwhile unit. How many of you regular viewers have been waiting for me to get to this one? The Sons of Fenrir. The Sons of Fenrir. Nah, just kidding. They're a trash tier unit. Yes, you can have fun with them. They are a fun unit to run around with. And they were fun for the first 20 games, and then I got real sick of them getting their faces stomped by pretty much everything. The only thing these guys have got going for them is they will melt a hero if you catch or even 2 heroes or 3 heroes if you catch them on their own. They will melt ranged units if you manage to somehow flank into them. But generally speaking, the cost of this unit is too much for the 1 in 10 games where you might do something amazing with them. I hear about people saying, I set traps and then people attack me and then out jump the wolves and I killed them. Ha ha ha. Well, just play pike, just play spear. You can do that without needing this unit with you. In my opinion, this is a trash tier garbage unit. You will have success with it early on when you are low level. You will have a lot of success with this unit because it can put out a lot of damage. The problem is that it can't take any. It is extremely fragile. It's just a waste of space, in my opinion. Some of you might put it in weak. Some of you might put it in good. But my opinion is it belongs here and trashed here with the other garbage. Woodcutters. I have a love for woodcutters. So, let's talk about them in a context of a peasant. Where do they belong? They have high armor penetration, they have a shield, they have a decent charge, they can kill things. This is one of the few peasant units that can reliably kill other things if you are careful and you play well with it. Is it a good unit? Would I put it in with Domain Pikes? No, Domain Pikes are a tier above these guys. So we're going to put them in weak. I have a soft spot for this unit, and of all the 40 leadership peasants, this is the one I would take. But there's no reason to take this one when you could take this one. Right? These guys are 70. We'll put them in weak with the farmers. Do they have a use? Yes. Are they good? For a peasant unit, they're good. They're still peasants. Lucky last. And I know a lot of you will be wondering about Berserkers because they look so cool. They sound so cool. And when you're in low tier games, you know, when you're level 100, 200, 300, these guys can do some work. Unfortunately, they are a weak unit. When they first came out, they were terrifying. They just murdered everything within reach. But they got toned down, particularly against heroes, because they used to just blitz heroes. You know, one unit of these guys could kill all of the heroes on a point because they were just ridiculous. They were not as bad as the X-Raiders, but still nasty. And it's a good unit. It's a fun unit. I like to use it. I use them regularly because they're so enjoyable. But they get face stomped. Anything up here will just face stomp them instantly. They cannot beat anything here. Well, they can beat these guys, or these guys, I guess. But they just get anything else will face stomp them. These guys will murder them straight up. Condos will probably kill them. These guys will murder them with their javelins. These guys will kill them. These guys definitely will kill them. X-Raiders will kill them. They're kind of like a flanky type unit, or one that you'd send up walls, but they're a little bit too expensive for what they are now. They're fun. They can get lots of kills, but they're really situational, and we're going to put them in weak. Well, we've done it. We've done all of these units. I hope you've learned something new. This is my opinion on all of them and where they belong in the solo queue random siege game meta. Well, boys and girls, I hope you learned something new, or you just enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for coming to my channel.